So, okay, guys, hi. Listen, this right here, I haven't watched it all the way through, in educational purposes only, but this is five pastas that they said is poisonous. So I wanted to hold off and wait and let us watch it together. All of my all in, that means we care, all in subbies, and for all of my new all in subbies. And please do hit subscribe as you come in, guys. On a serious note, but it's the pastas that they said that are poisoning us. So I'm not gonna chitter chat too much longer, but let's check it out and see what's going on with this because I mean, eventually we're gonna have to just start throwing everything out. Well, in my kitchen, because I'm alkaline, I don't have a lot of things that are that has many ingredients in it, but some things I do. And one of the things is my Prego. So even though I know how to make homemade sauce, but going forward, I'm just going to continue to just make my own. And I will do an upload to show you guys how to do it, okay? So let's begin. Please subscribe as you come in. And if you're late for class, do not disturb class. Come back after class time is over. Thank you.
Something called natural flavor that legally means almost nothing. Today we're exposing 5 brands you should put straight back on the shelf, counting down to the worst offender. A sauce that's been America's #1 for over 40 years, while using ingredients that exist only to fake what real tomatoes were supposed to do. Then we're revealing 5 brands that actually have real tomatoes inside. Every fact in this video comes directly from the ingredient label. Let's get into it. Number 5. Bertolli Tomato and Basil. The one engineered to look like a premium import. Bertolli built its entire identity around
Now, this one right here, I never would have thought would have made the list, but let's continue.
one word: Italian. The name, the confident label design, the font, and above everything else, olive oil. It's not just an ingredient in this product, it's a positioning statement. It's the thing Bertolli wants you to believe separates this jar from every generic option sitting next to it on the shelf. The implication is clear. This is the sauce made with real olive oil, the way it would actually be made in Italy, by people who care about the difference. Now read the back panel. Bertolli Tomato and Basil is manufactured in the United States, not imported, domestic. And that olive oil being used as the brand's central credibility claim? It appears in quantities so small it contributes essentially nothing to the actual flavor of the sauce. You are not tasting olive oil. You are tasting a sauce that lists olive oil as an ingredient. Those are not the same thing, and that distinction is exactly what the front label is designed to blur. Modified cornstarch appears within the first 8 ingredients. That is not a minor detail. That is the structural explanation for why this sauce feels thick. Modified cornstarch is an industrial thickening agent. It's in this formula because the tomato base alone doesn't have enough body to feel like a real sauce. The thickening that should happen naturally when you slowly simmer quality tomatoes down, concentrating their sugars, deepening their flavor, building natural viscosity, is instead being produced by a starch additive before the jar is ever sealed. The result is a faint starchy coating on your palate after each bite that no amount of olive oil mentioned on the label can address. The sweetness is also a tell. The sauce is noticeably sweet in a way that ripe tomatoes don't naturally produce unless they've been grown and harvested correctly. That rounded generic sweetness is what you get when the tomato base is thin and the formula needs something to make it feel complete. At $5 to $6, you're paying a premium price for a sweetened, starch-padded tomato product wearing Italian branding as a costume. The label is doing work the contents cannot. The next brand doesn't even try to look premium, and somehow that almost makes it worse. Number 4. Hunt's Traditional Pasta Sauce.
Educational purposes, so guys, I love Hunt's meatloaf sauce. And I cannot believe Hunt's is on the list. It says, don't buy these 5 pasta sauce because they're poisoning us. Let's continue.
The affordable one
Please
that doesn't
subscribe.
pretend to be anything else. Hunt's costs under $2. It tastes like something that costs under $2. And unlike most brands on this avoid list, It isn't trying to convince
Actually, it tastes really good. Let's continue.
you otherwise. No Italian village on the label, no borrowed heritage, no premium positioning. Hunt's is the straightforward budget option, which would be a reasonable category to occupy if what was inside were actually worth cooking with. The flavor is tomato adjacent. It identifies the basic category: acidic, slightly savory, vaguely sweet, without committing to any of those qualities convincingly. No depth, no development. It tastes like someone described tomato sauce from memory, and this is what got manufactured from that description. There's a flatness to it that becomes more obvious the more you pay attention. The texture is the functional failure. It doesn't cling. It doesn't coat. You toss the pasta, and within 30 seconds, the sauce has pooled at the bottom of the bowl. A pasta sauce that can't stay on pasta isn't performing its primary function. That's not a flavor preference, that's a structural problem with the formula. There's one thing worth noting, and it's genuinely relevant. The ingredient list is shorter than most in this tier. Tomatoes, tomato puree, salt, sugar, spices. No modified starch, no added oils, no emulsifiers. In terms of additive load, that's genuinely more restrained than several sauces charging 3 times as much. The simplicity is real, but sugar is listed. And sugar in a tomato sauce is always the same signal. The tomatoes couldn't produce enough natural sweetness on their own, so it was added afterward to patch the gap. The spices listed are a catch-all that tells you nothing specific, around 550 milligrams of sodium per half cup serving, which adds up quickly if you're using a realistic amount on a full plate of pasta. Hunt's is the most transparent underperformer on this list. It isn't deceiving you about what it is. It just isn't worth cooking with when better
Guys, please subscribe as you come in and take note, okay? All in Eklan Lifestyle. Thank you.
options exist at only a few dollars more. And the brand coming up next charges you 3 times as much to deliver roughly the same experience, inside a significantly more convincing container. Number 3, Classico Tomato and Basil, the one that charges you for the jar. Classico costs $5 to $7, and it comes in glass. That glass jar is doing more work than anything inside.
That's what we pay for, guys, like the jar, the printing, and they're not giving us what we're paying for. Let's continue. Allegedly.
The name implies something classical and deliberate. The refined label communicates a step above, the sauce you reach for when you want to feel intentional about dinner without fully committing to reading what's actually in the bottle. Classico understood that customer precisely and built a product for them. The design does the selling, the contents don't have to. Open it and the texture is smooth to the point of having no character at all. No tomato pieces, no variation, no evidence of a vegetable that once existed in a natural, unprocessed state. It's been worked into a uniform smoothness, the kind you only...
Yes, it is, Aaron. It's really good. I'm really shocked about this, that this is all these are on the list because they taste very expensive. Even though I know how to make my own Italiano tomato sauce, and I'm gonna I'll do an upload for you guys and show you how to do it. It's very easy. Let's continue.
achieve when
Please
consistency
subscribe.
at scale matters more than flavor from a real ingredient. There's nothing in the texture to suggest a tomato was ever chunky, seedy, or irregularly shaped, the way tomatoes actually are. The basil registers the way a scented candle registers. Technically present, noticeable in the most peripheral way, doing nothing meaningful for the flavor of the food you're about to eat. Here's the ingredient detail that reveals the most about this product. Classico lists both citric acid and natural flavor as additives alongside the tomatoes.
Hi, Shawnee. If I said it correctly, I'm sorry. My dining room chandeliers blur my eyes. But this is the 5 pastas that they're telling us that we shouldn't eat because it contains it's poisoning us, rather, allegedly. So you got to go back to the beginning and then start over, and please do subscribe. But this is what the video is about. Don't buy these 5 pasta sauce brands.
Tomatoes are naturally acidic. That's one of their defining characteristics as an ingredient. If a tomato sauce requires added citric acid as a separate ingredient, it means the tomatoes in the formula were not producing enough natural acidity on their own to create a balanced, pleasant flavor. The acidity had to be manufactured and added after the fact.
No disrespect, but most Americanos don't make their own pasta. I, for one, do because I'm alkaline. So it's a heavy hitter at the market, guys. For those of you that are abroad, they really make money off of this. But that's because most Americans haven't really had the authentic um, style or taste of the tomato sauce, the truly Italiano. Let's continue.
Fact. That's a sourcing problem dressed up as an ingredient choice. Natural flavor is the food industry's all-purpose opacity clause. It can mean almost anything, a blend of compounds that produce a desired sensory effect, and manufacturers are not required to tell you what those compounds actually are. In a sauce whose entire purpose is to taste like tomatoes, the presence of natural flavor means the tomatoes alone weren't doing enough. Something else had to be added to make this taste like what it's supposed to be. 450 milligrams of sodium per half cup. $5 to $7 per jar. The glass did the convincing. What's inside didn't have to.
Very
The two
true.
brands coming up next charge comparable money and ask you to trust them even further. And the ingredient list is where that trust begins to fall apart. 3
You
down.
guys see how they dress it up? Look how pretty. Look at this. This is what we're paying for because it's for surely not the homemade aesthetic ingredients. Let's continue.
2 more on the avoid list. Then we get into the 5 actually worth buying. The best one on that list might genuinely change how you shop in this aisle. Number 2, Ragu Old World Style Traditional. The one families have trusted for
That's the
decades.
one I don't.
Old World
Hold on,
Style
guys.
Traditional.
This is the one I don't like because it tastes sweet to me. I use the Prego if I buy it only out of the 5 brands that are listed. But this is the one I don't like. But most people do. I don't care for it.
Is one of the more ambitious pieces of marketing language on this entire list. It implies craft. It implies time. It implies a recipe that came from somewhere real, developed by someone who knew what they were doing, and preserved carefully enough to be reproduced at industrial scale without losing what made it worth making in the first place. Now look at the actual ingredient list. Tomato puree, water, soybean oil, salt, sugar, dehydrated onions, citric acid, spice, natural flavor. The soybean oil is the tell. Oil doesn't belong in pasta sauce. It's in this formula for one specific reason. The tomato to water ratio isn't substantial enough on its own to feel like a real sauce. Without added oil to create body, what's left would be too thin to function as something you'd willingly put on pasta. So instead of sourcing better tomatoes that could carry their own weight, this formula adds soybean oil to simulate a richness the base ingredient genuinely doesn't possess. You are eating oil emulsified tomato water that has been seasoned to smell and look like something Italian. The flavor structure confirms exactly that. There's a front-end burst of something tomato adjacent, aggressive, for about 3 seconds, and then it drops out completely. No mid-palate development, no finish. Just salt and the memory of something that briefly tasted like sauce. The texture alternates between thin and strangely thick in a way that has nothing to do with natural variation in tomato pieces and everything to do with multiple thickeners working imperfectly against each other. 600 milligrams of sodium per half cup. Added sugar on the
Wow,
ingredient
that's a
list.
lot, guys.
Dehydrated onions instead of fresh. $2 to $3 a jar, which sounds like genuine value until you understand that the value is entirely in the label, not what the label is protecting. Ragu's survival is built on price and shelf presence. They're in every store, they're the cheapest clearly visible option in the aisle, and they're betting on you not pausing to ask why a sauce with this many ingredients still manages to taste like very little. The brand coming up next has been running that same strategy for longer at a far larger scale with
Prego.
significantly more confidence. And it is, by a wide margin, the single most purchased pasta sauce in America. Number 1. Prego Traditional.
Yes.
The one that's been
I
in your
knew
life
it.
since before you were making your own grocery decisions. Prego launched in 1981. Over 40 years on the same shelves in virtually every grocery store in America. That kind of shelf presence doesn't happen because a product is exceptional. It happens because a product becomes the default. And defaults are extraordinarily difficult to dislodge once they're established. You don't choose Prego. You reach for it. The same way you reach for any object that has occupied the same space in your peripheral vision for your entire adult life. In that time, Prego has perfected one specific thing. Tasting inoffensive enough that you never feel strongly enough to stop buying it. That is not a compliment. That is a calculated business outcome. The flavor is what you get when the design goal is to produce something that registers as to make.
Okay, guys, Prego is going to be the last one, but I just wanted to give you guys a list of the 5 sauces that they're now telling us that we shouldn't eat, that is poisoning us. So if you missed from the beginning, go back to the beginning and see the list. But, I'm not sure about this. I love Prego. So this is something, and this is my favorite one, traditional. But I do know how to make it homemade. But I don't know about this now because they're telling us it's poisoning us. But again, please go back to the beginning and see all 5, the next 4, including Prego here. And I'll do a video for you guys to show you how to make it homemade. It's very easy, but you will need a blender. And please do subscribe, and thanks for joining All in Equine Lifestyle. Thank you. Have a safe weekend.